What's going on, Brian? How are you?
Doing well. How about you guys?
Doing awesome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, man, excited to get this jam in with you all and all let me in, which is always a good start to the day.
Absolutely, for sure. How's your vacation?
It was good, man. You know, we were doing a lot of soccer travel and different stuff with the kids, so we're all over. I say I don't even know that it really is a vacation anymore because it's all so integrated. Like we go for soccer, and then we go for this camp and that camp, and I'm still always working, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So they play travel?
My daughter does. Yeah, she's on what they call ECNL. So she travels with the top team with our club here. And we went to Seattle. Then we're going to go to Wisconsin and then a couple of college ID camps. She's a rising sophomore in high school.
There you go.
Yeah,
Dude, that's
man.
awesome, man.
She's a
What
good
did
one.
you used to play?
Yep. Yeah, I played college and professional. So she's kind of following a little bit of that. Like, it's worth it. It's a different life, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Do you find it more fun like watching it and watching her grow in the sport?
it's different, I think as I've matured and she's gotten older, I've realized like I believe you can really only be dad or coach. You really have a struggle to do the two. And so I chose to be dad, which is awesome. Because then like, hey, you want to go train? You want to ask me a question? You want to watch a game? You want to watch film? I can give you insight. But
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I'm still your dad. And, so less pressure. I still get nervous though. And like watching her, like at that level, you still get nervous.
Of course. I feel it, man. So that's awesome. I used to play soccer too, and I still do from time to time, just some pickup. But let's go ahead and get this bad boy started. The name of this podcast is the Top Producer Mindset. And the keyword right there with you particular, my friend, is mindset, right? So you've been, as we just mentioned, a pro soccer player. I would consider you a pro winner, an innovator of the mortgage industry, currently taking over as you're building your personal brand. It's like you come through Instagram and all these other platforms by storm. And you are doing this as the VP of one of the largest mortgage companies in the country. This is Loan Depot. So welcome to the Producer Mindset, man.
And thanks for having me, guys. Excited to jam with you and share some of the many lessons that I've learned.
Absolutely. So we got Josh here. Josh and I co-founded a company called TopShotPro 3 years ago. And it was with the purpose of stepping into not just the mortgage industry, but really the real estate industry, and speak with top leaders, people that are doing some really cool things, not just online, but also offline, right? So to get this started really quickly, we've been asking this really cool question through some of our past guests. So we'll just ask you the same. Brian, one day you were born and today you find yourself in this podcast. Fill us in. What happened in between?
So there's a lot. I'll give you the short version because I think it's kind of cool. People can go online now and you can search up and find out a lot about me, read bios and some of that. The important things I share with people is, my parents were probably some of the most influential people in my life. And I think for a lot of us, whether your parents were there, not there, like there's this different dichotomy that might exist. My parents were both very hardworking, grew up in Memphis. So I learned a lot of my work ethic and my grit, I call it, my competitive nature. Even my kindness from my mom is one of the kindest people. And she was like the mom that, all the kids would come over and eat spaghetti before the game or come over on the weekend, and she would feed breakfast. Like she just took care of everybody. And so I learned her genuine love for people. And then my dad's ability just to become an entrepreneur, go back and get his PhD, do all these things. And along the way for me, sports was my platform. So my dad kind of gave me that. And then over my teenage years, I was blessed to travel with the Olympic team, with the US national team, all these really cool things overseas. And I learned a lot about the world and how big the world is, but also who I was as a person and as a competitor. And I learned to figure out my drive, learn skills like visualization that I learned through sports that I can use in life and business. And as I went through, my older brother was 5 years older. I was always, like the younger brother, trying to do whatever he did, which I think was always that competitiveness, trying to get to where someone is and you see where they are. And a lot of times they're just further down the road. I share that as one of the life lessons that I've learned. And so fast track, go through college, get to play soccer, which paid for my college, which was awesome. And then played a little bit professionally, and teaches you a lot because the difference between college and pro, many people don't get to ever experience it. And I did. And you got to see what really makes a true pro. And in business today, you want to be a pro, right? That's what's going to differentiate you in this market. And I've taken all those skills and those things that I've learned. And now 20 years later in the mortgage business, I've been everything from almost a processor, underwriter, credit loan officer, mortgage loan officer, branch manager, area manager, worked with builders, condominiums, done all these different things. And I've learned my real superpower, my skill takes me back to sports. And it was being part of a great team, leading a great team, and being someone that could inspire others by actually doing the work with them and being a partner versus a boss or, one of those 30,000 foot ivory tower type leaders.
Dude, that's amazing. And I always make the comparison, right? Like there's the integration that happens whenever you come from a sports background, and how that teaches you to be part of a team, to play with other people, even the people that you're competing against, right? It just like teaches you to some capacity or extent. How have you, with your teams now over at Loan Depot, how have you integrated your past life into bringing that sports-like mentality and that leadership and that culture more than anything?
That's a great question. So a few principles I share is, one, it starts with you. Regardless of what your role is, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And this is where I'm saying today, in a recession, in a contracting market, unfortunately, what most people will default to is they stop investing in the things that will make them successful, like a coach, going to seminars and conferences, even going to a free online trainings that exist today to teach you how to prospect better, build relationships with real estate agents better, how to grow your builder business, whatever it is. People stopped investing in themselves. So I'd say number one, you've got to do that. Having a coach in sports is no different than having a coach in business. And it still amazes me that so many people they say they want success, but when you give them one of the keys to their combination of you need a coach in your life, accountability, and someone to help you that will accelerate that, they're not willing to do it. So I would say that's number one. Number two, for a lot of people today, they need to look at what their days look like. Do you actually have a schedule, and do you have your activities planned? I've gotten really granular with this with my coach, and we actually map out on Sunday nights what my schedule is going to be. I go through, I cancel meetings that no longer make sense, that don't fit into my priorities for that week. Maybe I move them out or cancel them. And then number three, I'm looking for voids. Do I not have enough business development, prospecting, recruiting, training, time one-on-one with my team? And I'm filling in the things that are my priorities. So when I show up every day, I know exactly what I need to do, and I can measure the success. And then the last one I would just share is look, we need to be a student of the game. Embrace the mindset of you're never finished, right? Maybe one day you get to retire like I did from soccer. But the reality is, even after that, there was still an after the season, right? Like after professional career. And so for everyone in your journey, you need to figure out where you are and where you want to go, and recognize that you've got to put some work into this, right? And be okay with not being great at certain things. If you want to improve your communication, get on podcasts. You want to learn more about leadership, listen to a podcast, read a book. You want to improve your communication, go to a seminar, right? Go work on these things and be intentional about your own growth and development, and realize we're all a work in progress. Everybody you see online and social, don't believe that they don't have flaws or things and insecurities that they're dealing with. The difference is they just showed up and put themselves in the game, and many people are not doing that today. So you got to get in the game.
I love that. And so within that, you kind of touched on two things that I had questions about regarding education, lifelong education, and coaching and mentorship. So I'm going to ask the education one first. And so this is kind of an observation, any top performer, top producer, or someone performing at the highest level in their field always has a constant hunger to learn. Yeah. And it said, I read somewhere, since you were a child, you always had the instinctive urge for expansion and growth. So where do you think that came from, and how do you apply that into your day-to-day role?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I know my dad was definitely a big influence in that. He was actually serving in doing prison ministry and a pastor, and then decided he had a calling really to go on, get his master's and do more in the psychology field and help out with mentally ill and all of that. Then he even went on and got his PhD. And so I got to see even my dad going through and in his 30s, go back and say, you know what, I need these things to move forward. And I've just had a hunger of even in sports, I would watch games, right? I would watch tape. You would watch things that were happening. And so I think that was kind of birthed from those two areas. And then I had some really specific teachers in my life along the way, especially when I went to University of Memphis, some phenomenal teachers that were actually in the workforce. They weren't just full-time teachers, and they would share real life about, hey, you're going to learn some things here, but when you get out into the real world in your job, you're always going to be learning, and that'll be a catalyst for you. Probably the first 13 years of my life in corporate America at Wells, they had a lot of personal development and growth, right? So for a lot of people there, that was how I learned, like 360 feedback, crucial conversations, going through and doing all these Myers-Briggs tests, like personality, DISC profiles, all of that. I've always just been fascinated. Like, you know, who am I? How do I connect with other people? And just a curiosity of what can I learn that's going to help me become better. So I think that was that part of the student that's always in me. There's always a student in me that's willing to be coachable. I think the mentor piece, I think back to, I was at Wells doing really well. And I'll never forget, like I was performing well, top branch manager, all this stuff. I had an opportunity to apply for a promotion. So of course, you know, they're encouraging you go apply for it. And I'm in this almost, you remember The Apprentice, the show that Donald Trump and all, okay. So imagine you walk into a boardroom like that and you've got HR and all these managers and all these people, and they're grilling me and the other candidates, you know, individually about why you're the best person for the job. Tell me about your strategy. What's going to be your plan of execution, all of this. And I recognize very quickly, like that room gets very, very tenuous and hot. Like people are putting you on the spot. Well, I go through all of that and fast forward, I don't get the job, which happens, right? Sometimes you apply for things or you think you're ready for that next level and someone says no to you. And no just means not right now. So I never gave up. But out of that, one of my first true mentor, and I was the mentee, relationship began out of someone on the panel that saw some potential in me. And they reached out to me afterwards and said, hey, I know you didn't get the role, but here are some things I noticed. I would love to help you in your journey. They were much further along, right? 10, 15 years in their career ahead of me. And that's where I realized the power of mentorships. And then I volunteered in a program to be a mentor myself, to give the information and knowledge I had and to step into the next realm. So I'd say that's the important part, is you can be a mentee, but you also, as you grow, need to become a mentor to others along their journey. Because wherever you are, someone's wanting to get there. And wherever you are, there's someone that's ahead of you with where you want to go. And so if you bridge those gaps, and I think that's just relationship capital. That's how the mentor-mentee real process and relationships foster.
I love that.
Would you say that, sorry, really quick before this thought escapes me, would you say that as you became a mentor of others at the same time, you got really good at what you had been learning from your mentors as well?
Yeah. I mean, here's what I know is you can watch soccer, right? I'll just use that because that's my sport. You can watch soccer on YouTube. You can watch it on TV. You go out in the game and you get on the pitch with real players. It's faster. It's different. You are not going to be able to acquire all the skills watching. So you got to get in the game. And part of that for me was becoming an actual mentor allowed me to share that and then recognize how I not only consumed information, but could I teach it, right? Because that's when you become more of a master of that skill and start to progress, is not only learning it, but can you teach others?
That's awesome.
The next level.
It's really good.
Love it. Very good. Very good. One other thing that I was really thinking about before we jumped on here, I was going through and I was consuming some of your past content, and you said that if you build relationships, understand products and programs, then yourself, you'll be a successful loan officer. And you know, we have a marketing company. We help loan officers create content to educate consumers and then motivate them to work with the loan officer. So what is the one thing that you could recommend a loan officer to do right now to start building relationships and to market themselves?
So you have to show up where people are showing up that you want to work with. Sounds really simple, but I'll kind of dive into it more. Is if your real estate agents are in an office, which many of them are not, let's just say they are, then you would want to go in the office. And could you do a small group face-to-face meeting with those agents? Because that's where they're comfortable, right? That's where they're going to receive information. That's where they're going to be more open to tell you about what's working. What are the problems and challenges they have today that you might be able to help solve? The same is true. I'll give an example of if your agents are more, and I would even say millennial and younger, are they showing up on Facebook? Is that how they attract their customers? And that's how they would refer, and that's their database. So I'm reaching out to a friend. They're in a mastermind, right? So I believe in the power. I'm part of 3 different, very specific mastermind groups. One of those I recognize, there's this top team, won't give away too much. Let's just say they're one of the top 5 firms in the country, number 1 team, number 2 team in the entire state. Well, I see them immediately. And if I'm a loan officer today, one, I know where to source people because I know where agents show up today. I know where customers show up. So I show up there. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all those. I'm on all of those. So I use the term ubiquitous. I'm everywhere. You're going to find and you're going to consume content differently from me. But what I do differently, and I would encourage everyone to do today, is you have to take the next step. I literally sent them a DM and said, I'd love to grab 5 minutes of your time. I love what you just posted here. It really resonated with me about where your business is and just your passion for what you're doing. You notice I didn't say anything about, I want to try to be your preferred lender. I want to do this. I want something from you. Give a genuine compliment, like be real, be human, and share with them what you connected with on. Because what I've recognized is, if I consume their content and there is something truly that we're on the same page with, maybe we both love soccer, maybe we both love dogs, we love to travel, whatever it is. Maybe they love investing. Right now, a lot of top real estate agents are also investors on the side, multifamily, single family, all these things. How can you make a point of connection and then pick up the freaking phone? So many people are afraid, like they send one DM, oh, I didn't get a message back. Call them, text them, figure out how you get there. The last one I would tell you is I've had success. I send videos. I'll send personalized videos to people to break up the noise because most people aren't willing to get on camera. They're not willing to show up. Once you've seen my face and you see my tone and my excitement and passion, you're going to reach back out to me. Or guess what? The small percentage that don't, that's cool too. Maybe we're not meant to do business together right now. I'm going to move on to the next person. You always are prospecting every day, building relationships. That's why I'd say it's like getting granular, like what I'm doing today. I don't even originate anymore, guys, but that's what I'm doing today.
Right. That's amazing. Go on, Michael.
So you just kind of answered like the key components on how a loan officer can be successful, quite honestly. At least on social particularly, I think you can find massive success because you can go into a hashtag, look up your local area where you're licensed or where you get most of your business. And to your point, be social on social media, engage with them, break the noise with a video, right? At which point did you realize that, okay, this is who I am. I'm the VP here at Loan Depot. I've been producing for now, if I'm not mistaken, it's been since 2001, correct?
Since I've been in the business, yeah, December 10th.
There you go. So It's like since 2001, since December 10th, 2001. It's like, at which point did you realize I can be and who I am is much more than just, let's say, a loan officer. Like I am a leader, I am my personal brand, and I need to get a message in front of people that talks about my vision and my passion, where those two align, and now you're creating the content consistently for it. Where did that become a thing for you?
So I'll take you through my story because I think it'll probably relate to a lot of people, and I can probably help a lot of people listening today shorten that window if you feel like that's a calling or that's a desire for you. It took me a long time, quite honestly, it took me almost 15 years, right? Like truthfully, to go through the process of, I originated for so many years, then moved into that branch manager role. Through that early phase, I'll just call it kind of season 1, kind of almost my freshman year, I was originating. I was learning products, programs. But when I was a loan officer, our branch manager would allow me to speak at sales meetings. And I would teach back in the day when Todd Duncan, he's still out there now, but I would sell and teach high trust sales and marketing. And I would teach that in the sales meetings. What would happen is loan officers would come to me and go, hey, Brian, I got a question on this product. I was the first one to adopt. When new products rolled out, I would print out the guidelines, highlight them, learn them, and I would immediately go out and start to tell people about those. And I would help in sales meetings. So that was kind of phase 1 is, if you're a loan officer today and you're wondering, what can I do next? You don't need a title. Actually, what you need to do is tell your branch manager or whoever your leader is, hey, I would love to help you out in the next sales meeting. They will love you for it. And you can talk about a product, a program, the market, what's happening, maybe a tool that you use out there, right? I know you use like MBS Highway, Mortgage Coach, all these different cool tools. Could you teach someone? So that was kind of my freshman year of, I'm still doing the reps, right? I'm still originating loans, but I'm then starting to layer in that part. Move on to sophomore year, I started to attract and actually started to hire people to my team, right? And I think that's the next phase for a lot of people. And I got a lot of this wrong. because I was hiring people just based on production. I hired people just because maybe I liked them. And I really didn't have a formula or a process for how I recruited. And so thus out of that, I hired some really good and I hired some that were just painful. And I had to learn the lessons of, you can't just hire your friends. You can't hope people are going to produce and turn out and work as hard as you are. You have to figure out who they are, which kind of took me into, I would say, kind of my junior year, if you want to frame it up this way. And then I started to determine, I'd left corporate America. I was working for a small independent, and I started to realize, okay, how do we tell stories? Like, how do I attract people based on the story of the company? I got really good at talking about the company and the market and all this stuff, but I was missing the key ingredient, which was this last phase I've entered into the last 4.5, almost 5 years, which was I wasn't clear on what I believed, what my values were. And I sure couldn't tell someone, because unless you've written it down and done the work, how can you tell someone? They'll see right through it. They'll know it's shallow. I always say this, you can't borrow somebody's values. You can't borrow someone's like belief system. It has to be yours. It has to be who you are. So you have to do the work. So this last kind of phase of us, I mean, look, we hired 87 people to our team last year, 87, built it out from like 125 million to $2.5 billion in 4 years. Like the most growth I've ever had. It's the third $1 billion team I've been a part of. And the lessons I just shared with you, what I would tell you is start with where I am now and go backwards in a way, right? Like you can do some of those things, but get clear on who you are, what you believe, and that will start to attract the right people into your life. And then from there, there are some things that you need to upskill probably in how you attract people, show up on social and all that, but those are all skills that can be learned.
I love that, man. One thing that you just touched on, that was kind of a serving follow-up question is, have you found it that since not like in this phase 4, right? Like, have you found it that now that you started putting out your values, your message, like pretty much explaining and reinforcing the why, you know, like why you want to connect with somebody like Brian, why you want to work alongside someone like Brian, have you found it that it's become much easier to attract the right individuals and to repel the ones that just don't belong?
1000%. And what I'm noticing too, because I follow the trends, I'm not a huge like this or like follow that, but I do watch the engagement. And the first platform I was on was LinkedIn. So a lot of people don't know that, but you know, I worked really hard. I was actually on there. I've been on LinkedIn for probably over 15 years, wow. Right? And so building that, I was like, oh, you got a lot of LinkedIn engagement. Well, yeah, I've been here for 15 years. Now, the last 5, I've been an everyday kind of person, at least 5 or 6 days a week. And I'll share a strategy later that's really helped me. But yeah, I would say for people that are wanting to share this, the benefit for you today, the what's in it for you is when you get clarity on this and you start to share it, the beautiful part is people that are coming to me now. And one, I still get mortgage referrals, right? Like every week I will have people that have a question for me about, should I do this cash out refinance? What does a renovation loan look like? Hey, I'm looking to buy a second home. I'm looking to buy an investment property. They want advice from somebody that they trust. So building your credibility online, most people miss this, is I've shown up who I am. So if you were to meet me in person at the supermarket, the kids' soccer game, at church, at a conference, wherever, like I'm me. I'm the same dude you're going to see online as you're going to meet in person. And that's great, because then the people that actually engage in my content are the people I want. They have much more of a likelihood of, if I ever offered a product or service like my book or podcast, all that stuff, they're going to engage. And the ones that don't like my stuff, so what? There's 7 billion people. So what? Like I'm not for everybody. I'm not out for everybody, but there is a niche, I believe, that I'm starting to even get more clarity this year of who I can help and how I can help them through my experience. So as you go on the journey, be prepared for the fact that it's not going to all make sense right away. But unless you get in the game, you're sitting on the sideline watching the rest of us and those that are in it figure it out. And it's only delaying your success. And so that's the reason why you got to get in today.
I love that. That's awesome. Do you have anything on your end, Jay?
I don't think so. I mean, you touched just briefly on that. You kind of anchored it with the strategy that you said that you shared in a little bit. Go ahead and share that strategy, and then we can just wrap everything up.
So a lot of my friends, they've copied it, they've replicated it. It works amazing. As I realized for me, one of the things that I actually enjoy, it gives me energy, is I like to give people real compliments, like real affirmation, acknowledgement about what they've done. It comes from sports, right? Like when somebody made a good play, that was just who I was. I was a coach, working with my kids. There's a part of me that I still enjoy. When somebody works hard, winners recognize winners. People that put in hard work recognize others that put in hard work. So what I started doing was like, look, I know I'm shy on certain things, posting on social. I don't always want to post on social. Like early in my journey, I was nervous, afraid of all these things. And I thought, well, man, what if everybody else that's posting this kind of feels the same way? What could I do that could help them in their journey, right? Like, how could I be a blessing? And so I realized the simple tactic was this. I had a list of about 50 people, and I would go on strategically every week, sometimes several times a week, and I would leave a very thoughtful comment, not a 1-word, 2-word, great job, hey, keep up the wonderful posts, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I would read their post, and I would leave a thoughtful comment, right? And so it might be like, Josh, for you, it might be, hey, Josh, I love what you shared here. Here's a book that I read that actually goes along with that. I would recommend it to anybody reading it or to yourself. Great job on the post, right? Like it's actually thoughtful. Right. One, it's going to stand out. Two, I'm populating in your feed. So I'm playing a little bit to the algorithms of when you start to see me show up and I'm leaving different comments than anyone else, I've separated myself from the pack. And the third was when you do this consistently over time, there will be a moment, and you'll know when it is, that one or the other person is going to reach out and they're going to have a need or a question, or they just want to say, hey, I've had people go, dude, you've been commenting on my stuff for a while. Let's hop on a call for 5 minutes. It's how, if you look at some of my podcasts, we've had everybody from Ryan Serhant to Dave Meltzer to some of the biggest names that, guys, if you want to do this, that's how I built credibility with them. And I didn't come in asking. And you know what? I do enjoy their content. So why shouldn't I give them a compliment and give them feedback about what they're doing that's fantastic? They're human. They love those comments. And so that would be where I'd start. Some of our team, 50 can be overwhelming. So what I'd say is if that's overwhelming for you, break it down. And I break this number down for our team. Pick 25. If you took 25 people that every day you went on their posts, real estate agents, financial planners, previous customers that have sent you referrals, right? Like all these spheres of influence for you. This literally could take you 30 minutes or less.
Yep.
Because this is a minute that it takes you to leave a comment. So I'm very intentional in my scroll, and I actually did a hack, and I shared this. I did the voice memo, right? So on the iPhone and most phones, right? I would actually hit the voice memo and I would say what my thought was because it was conversational, and it would type it out for me. I check spell check because it's usually better than me typing. Boom, hit send, move to the next person. I don't hang out. I don't waste time. I'm very intentional. 30 minutes. It's the best prospecting, the best relationship building you can do. Guess what? It's free.
I love that so much. It's just like something that you have to do. It's not urgent, but it's so important to be a caring person. It's like if somebody was sharing this with a room or in conversation, you wouldn't just be like, nice, or like thumbs up, right. It's actually caring, actually responding. I love that so much. Thank you so much for your time. What can we get from you? I know Conversations with Covey came out last year or so.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit and then we'll wrap things up?
Okay. We got the plug.
There
it is. Everybody's watching. So this was actually a really cool idea. And again, this is where I would push and challenge people to test your creativity. I never thought I would write a book. I didn't think I'd have a podcast, all that stuff. Like if you'd asked me 5-10 years ago, I've been like, that ain't for me. That's not my thing. Here's what I found. By stepping outside and learning new skills, I got into new audiences. I built new relationships. There is credibility. The people that have written books know how hard it is. They know the money that's invested, and they recognize, like real recognizes real. Like if you've done the work to get that done, incredible. So what I did is I wanted to deliver value. The podcast started, and it was really an idea. I had some really cool connections, people. I thought it was gonna be mortgage real estate. It completely went a different direction. So again, life lesson, be prepared and willing to adapt when you get feedback and recognize that's where you need to go. The book is the best, what we felt like in our first season of the 11 conversations that I had with people. Because I recognize not everybody listens to podcasts, not everybody wants to do that. Some people still want a hard copy book. And so each of the conversations, the guest is going to share their story of adversity, what they overcame, which is beautiful stories. I mean, everything from losing it all, coming from another country, not speaking any English, to dealing with cancer and finding that out, to just all these things that you can relate to in your life. And they also then follow that up. So you can relate to them in their kind of their hero's journey at the bottom. And as they come up, they're going to give you their life lessons. And it's like a Reader's Digest. You could read one chapter or read all of them, and you can refer back to it at different seasons of your life. It could be a gift for someone that you care about to say, hey, you should read this chapter. This is really going to help and inspire you. Here are some of the keys and the combinations to help you achieve success in your life. Because one of my core beliefs was, wherever you are, I think God's uniquely equipped you and given you gifts and talents to use. And so I want to help, and I believe we can all help each other unpack those and then start to distribute those out in the world. And that was just one way that I found I could do that.
That's amazing, man. So you found different mediums to simply just be a giver in this life. I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you stopping by the Producer Mindset. We got to do this again at some point in time. I feel like we barely tapped into Brian, Covey, and the iceberg that might exist below all of that. So thank you again for showing up and being a part of the show.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Awesome.